Hi, everyone. I was waiting for the You're Live. Welcome. Thank you for loving me while I've been gone. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for your prayers, your care, your energy, and your concern. I received messages from many people. My birth name is Karen, and I like to go by the name Shaman. My business name is Naturally with Karen. It is a beautiful day as I'm doing this live. I don't want to be editing it and trying to make it fancy and cover up anything that is not real and natural. It's not me. I turned 59 years old yesterday, 59 years young. And if you have watched any of my other videos, you will know that I lost my child who's 24, passed and died. He transitioned, in my language, transitioned out of his physical body. It was very, very, very stressful for me, as it would be for any mother. That involved opioids, and that will be the third book that I publish, will be about opiates and opioids. The necklaces that I'm wearing are one of him when he was a little baby. I don't have my fancy webcam, and I don't have my fancy Blue Yeti microphone, and I'm going to explain why. I got the Blue Yeti microphone for a little over $100 because I was recording courses, and I thought people are paying good money and they're expecting a good sound quality. So I'm going to put, a decent microphone in for that. So I'm just sitting here in the mudroom area of my home in Northeast Minnesota. I live in a small city of 12,000 people right now, where I have been for 18 years. It's almost hard to believe when I say that. I moved into this house August 23rd, 2002, and I'm going to share a little story with you. It's going to be a little bit winding, so I'd really love for you to hear this story, because in the end, I think it's going to be very, very chilling for a few people that just don't have a lot of exposure to this, and I want to make it less so. I want to make you aware of the fact that whatever I can do, you can also do. It just requires a little bit of development. I also would like to get back on and be more regularly live on YouTube, and be able to share with you some of the things that I have gleaned over the last 36 plus years in my adult life, as far as why you needn't worry so much. I'm not saying don't worry at all. I'm saying why you shouldn't worry so much about pathogens and viruses and bacteria. I will explain certain things and share with you some tips, some medicine, some tools that you'll be able to protect yourself. So come along with me. So being a Californian of 42 years, born and raised, my father was born in Oakland. My mother was brought to California by the time she was about a little over a year old, in 1942, during the Cold War. So for all intents and purposes, I'm a multi-generational West Coast California woman. And that's really what's at the core of me is West Coast thinking and emotions and my movement, how I operate in my life. My way of life is very Californian, even though I've been here. And so I, being from California, thought to myself, there's just no way I would ever become a homeowner. Just no way. I mean, just the cost of living out there in Santa Cruz and where I grew up in San Jose, just no way it was ever going to happen. I mean, the prices are so expensive. And so, and I'm going to sip on a cup of mud water, which I am trying out for the first time today with a little raw honey, and it's absolutely delicious. So my child passed away. He died. He transitioned October 29th of last year. So we're at 8 months, coming up on 9 months ago that he died. And it has hit me very, very, very hard. My face was very swollen. I became full of a lot of mucus. I became very tired. And in the process of all that, I found out that I also really, really needed, not even wanted, I had wanted a few times before, but I needed to sell my home. And so I knew that on a business level, I really needed to be somewhere else with a little bit of a larger population or a little more open-minded population. And I didn't really want to live super close to a paper mill. But there were some things that I wish that I could just be like a turtle and I could just take the home that I had so many memories in, that I had raised my child in from the time he was 6, or actually he was 7. He turned 7 August 22nd. So he was 7 by a day when we moved into this house, and he died at age 24. He would be 25 in August. His name is Zawa Pringle. So when we came to look at the house, before it was ever even a possibility of buying the house, the real estate prices at that time were $50,000 for an 800 square foot little, what's called a bungalow, because it's a small square footage, just a 2-bedroom, plenty of room as far as I'm concerned. And I was like, man, this is something that would rent for well over $1,000 in California. How amazing that I could buy a home for this amount of money. And so I did have a family member here who said that they would put the loan in their name to help me get started. They weren't going to buy the house, they weren't going to put money down, but they were going to put the loan in their name. I thought, my gosh, this is amazing. I could either go for the apartment in the Twin Cities, or I could have a home where the mortgage is going to be so low that I'm going to be able to. The goal of moving to Minnesota was to be able to be more of a hands-on parent. You know, if I was going to be a solo parent, which is by default certainly not what I had planned, I wanted to be a parent that was going to be a lot more hands-on. So when I walked into the house, and here's where it starts. I walked into the home, my child wasn't with me before we bought the home, and I'm looking at the home and thinking it through and looking it over several times, and nobody was here. A realtor wasn't walking us through. They said, the door's open, just go ahead and go look at it. And I thought, cool. I can sit in the house, I can get a feel for it. Ooh, it needs a lot of work cosmetically. But so as I was here, I walked into one of the rooms and I picked up a real heavy feeling in my chest. And as I came in again and again, I felt and I heard that a woman by the name of Dorothy. And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. So someone by the name of Dorothy was in this room, but nobody knew anything. The neighbors weren't telling me anything. I tried to find someone to ask, and I couldn't really ask anyone. And so the next step in this leg of the journey was Diane Siltonen, who's the owner of Remax Realty in Cloquet, Minnesota, was the agent on the home. It was being sold by a man who'd been a landlord by the name of Paul Vitone. And he had rented it to 2 women. And all I knew after asking and asking was that it was 2 women that were Native American. When I walked into that particular bedroom, I always got a heavy feeling in my lungs. And after the house was purchased, kind of dropped it, everybody was like, oh, just kind of knock it off with that stuff, Karen. I mean, do you want the house or not? And that was kind of, it was like the straightforward, cut to the chase, point blank, this is what we're going to do. All right, whatever, So I moved in. I had never, ever in my life lived in snow. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to drive in snow. I had a Volkswagen Jetta. Was definitely someone who'd come from Santa Cruz. I'd worked as a paralegal. I'd been accruing all these certifications, and I'd been doing coaching on the side as far as my work. But I had a young child, and I wanted more hands-on. I wanted to be able to homeschool. I wanted to unschool. I wanted to expand into being a medicine woman. And I thought, well, this would be great. So I got myself licensed with the city of Cloquet, and I was told that I could open my business doors as of February the 1st, 2003. We bought the house late summer 2002. I looked around for jobs because now I had a mortgage, I had a car payment, I had a few credit cards. We had a dog to feed, a child to feed. And here I was on my own after being 42 years in California. And it was kind of scary coming across 2,300 miles or so and starting your life all over at age 42, and you don't really know anyone. It's not like I'm going to school and I'm going to make friends. And so, we lived in the home, and the lights would turn off and on. And I began to explain to my son in what I hoped would be a very developmentally friendly way, when people leave their body, their vessel, their vehicle, Sometimes, for whatever reason, and we don't know why, they're still around. And we're going to find out about Dorothy. And so he said, "Oh, Mom, I'm scared." And I said, "It's okay. You don't need to be scared. I have been exposed to this, and vis-a-vis my grandmother, my mother, and many people, and more so my grandmother, who lost her firstborn son. And it's going to be okay, because no one in the spirit realm can ever hurt you." And so this is where a lot of the times when I speak about ghosts, right, I want people to understand I don't use the word soul and I don't use the word ghost. Instead, I use the word spirit pretty universally. Take a sip here. So this went on for many, many years. Excuse me. Still not totally completely rejuvenated and regenerated after losing my son and after a couple of years of stress preceding it. But I'm on the mend. As you can see, my skin is starting to glow. The puffiness is coming down. My hair is getting nice and thick, and I've just kind of put it back in a bun. It's a Sunday as I'm filming this live video, and it was lawn mowing day and cleaning and putting things up for sale and all that. All the things that we do on a Sunday a lot of the time. A very short-statured Native American woman used to walk by the house pretty regularly, and I asked her one day, "Excuse me, I've got a question. You wouldn't happen to have known the two women that lived in the home here? Because I don't seem to get any answers from anyone." She said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." I said, "Well, do you know what their names were?" And she said, "Dorothy and Ann." And she goes, and also there was another man that was living. I said, "Yes, because I keep getting mail in the mailbox for Randall Bailey, and I keep putting a line through it and saying no longer at this address and putting it back out on the mailbox. And, hoping that this is going to get to this person, whoever Randall Bailey is." And so she said, "Well, yes, her name was Dorothy. And the other woman that lived there, her name was Ann. Ann is living up on, apparently she just also died, transitioned about 3 or 4 months ago." I really wish that I would have taken the time. These are the things that we procrastinate on. I wish we would have taken the time, and I would have taken the time, and I would have gone up there and sat down and had a conversation with Ann. So, time goes by, and now my own child passes away. But let me back up for a moment. Right next door to me, in a large family of Native American folks move in, and we're very neighborly. I've made smoothies and brought over extra clothing, and we share a lot, and they'll come in and help me if I get stuck with something in the house. And we've really enjoyed a good neighborly relationship, as I do with all of my neighbors. I told you that I really needed to sell my house. I didn't really want to sell my house in this moment, having just sustained a terrible blow of losing my child 8 months ago. But the timing was such that I had to sell my house, and it was a mess. And things had been let go for the last 2.5, 3 years. And now I'd brought all my son's possessions in from the room he was renting in Duluth where he died. And I just felt like every time I tried to pick them up and organize them, I just felt despondent, like I just couldn't do anything. And as we got moving along, a handyman came over that happened to be a client's ex-husband who wasn't doing anything, because now my son dies, the world shuts down with COVID, coronavirus, SARS, CoV-2, all the different renditions of the naming of it. So I'm like, wow, my child dies, the whole world shuts down, my business shuts down. I need to sell my house. I need to do it during the summer, because I'm in Northeast Minnesota. Winters are very severe. Winter is not the most optimum time to sell a house, and also neither is during COVID. I better get moving, or I'm not going to accomplish what I need to do. So these are the things that as we get older, we look back in retrospect and reflect upon how much we have procrastinated in our lives. I frequently ask people, do this, this, and this, and they don't get around to doing the priority first. And I can relate because I have likely probably made way more mistakes than you have. So I'm giving it to you from a place of love, a place of motherly, sisterly, family love, because these are things we should, could, and, if we would do them, they would make our lives easier. The handyman, who's an ex-husband of one of my clients who checked on me, knowing that I was just absolutely racked with grief and sadness, knowing that I also had to sell my home. I mentioned to her I'm going to have to find a handyman. And so she said, my ex-husband is perfect for the job. And I said, well, I've got $1,000 in cash for labor and $1,000 to buy some supplies to really transform this home and have it market ready. It did end up costing more than that for supplies and tools. And I'm telling you that after March 18th, when the business shut down and I had already gone back to work at a job that was 10 hours a week, trying to get myself back together, had run 2 funerals, I was grieving. I wanted to just pull the covers up over my head and say, I'm done. I'm done with everything. I'm just so done with the world right now. I've lost my baby, my beautiful man, my young man. What else could possibly go wrong? I mean, what else could possibly, affect me in my life? And not just me, but I found out through really getting into knowing opiates and opioids that this was affecting hundreds of thousands of people. So while my son was going through this, and I had no idea really about that this was going on with opiates to this level. I was researching, I was reading PubMed, I was taking an opiate detox course by Matthew Finch. I was doing hair tissue testing and finding out why was the limbic system being hijacked, and on and on and on. So I just want to kind of infuse that in there as we build together, because if you'll watch this questions later, I will eventually show you that we will build on something pretty terrific. Okay. So my son dies. And as I was saying, it backed up. The neighbors next door that I'm very neighborly with, a young man who was 15, died in their bathtub, I believe from an alcohol overdose. And I happened to be with my son in the front room months before my son died, having no idea he was going to pass. And I saw all these people run out of the house. And I thought, oh my gosh, something has happened. It doesn't look good. So when I advertised for $10 an hour for someone to come and help me load the U-Haul truck to get all my things to storage, the woman that came, that brought her son and her daughter to help me and to make the money, right? That was the mother of the young boy that passed, the teenage boy that passed next door. That was a little ironic. We hugged each other. We cried together. She handed me a piece of jewelry with some diamond chips in it that she said her son had given to her. And I know in Caucasian European ways, usually we would say, oh, no, I can't possibly take that. But I stood there, mother to mother, we were chest to chest, tears coming out of our eyes. I said, I just can't even imagine that now my son is gone, your son is gone from earth in their bodies, and that we met this way through your daughter and your other son helping me to move. Let this loud truck go by. It was a very, very moving day. Not just pun intended, moving, getting everything into the U-Haul and getting it to the storage in May. We're in July. But to have met the woman whose son died next door, who I would see bring the teddy bears and the balloons, the Mylar balloons, and put them, next to the house on the side of the road to memorialize for her son. not remembering even that that was her until she came in and said, my son died next door. The shorter statured Native American woman that would walk by all the time, who confirmed that yes, it was Dorothy. Yes, Dorothy died in this house, who I invited in to come in and have a cup of tea and sat down at the time when I had a couch in here. It's empty besides the camp chair I'm sitting on right now. I'm moving soon. To the next story that I'm going to tell you, which is the chilling part. For all those years, as I explained, mail came in the name of Randall Bailey. My neighbor across the street is a realtor, a manager of a realty office. She's not the one helping me with my home. Sometimes I wish maybe she would have been. What does that say? Oh, I see. Okay, I'm hoping I didn't have a warning sign. I don't know if you're still with me. Let's see, 21 minutes here. I'm trying not to make it too long and too long-winded. If you're with me, maybe just drop me a little thing in the chat box and I'll know who you are and I'll hail you up. It turns out that as I was walking in the house last week, last strong, I had just come from going to Petco, where I had gotten the 3 dogs, the canine companions, the pack that I share space with, 185-pound Rottweiler, a German Shepherd mix, and a 5-pound Chihuahua who's cuddled up next to me sleeping here, Pablo. And I had gotten them some treats that I really like to get them when I feel like I can afford it. And they're by a company called Dog's Will. And one of them is for skin and coat. One of them is for hip and joint. One of them is for immunity and defense. And they have turmeric and zinc. And if you look at the ingredients, they've got really, really great ingredients, which is why they're really kind of spendy. So even though they're treats, and I use them for treats, I make dog food bowls and I break them up and I also put them in there. And then I know, hey, it's helping with their immune system with the zinc. And I add a lot of things, which I'm going to be preparing something else for, which is going to be quite good. So I came back and I had a bag full of about 4 bags from Dog's Well. And I saw the neighbor's pit bull, Stella, who's a male, who was in their SUV sitting in the driveway. And I know that they love to go to the river every day, like I love to go to the hiking trail every day. And I like to hike up for half an hour and hike back and maybe spend a little time in between out in nature. That's like, my frosting on the cake, if you will, on the Lake Superior Trail. And so I said, you know what, I bet Stella would really love to have some treats like this. And so I went into the house and I brought back a couple handfuls of the different treats and some of the beef sticks by Duke's that I buy that are nitrate free. And so I put those together and I went over and I thought, I don't want to walk right up to Stella because she's in the car. Oh, bless up, Whitney. Good to see you. I don't want to walk right up to Stella because he is in the car. And that's a territory. And that's where dogs can be a little bit more possessive about their territory. And there was a man in the back seat with Stella that I'd never seen before. And I said, oh, excuse me. Do you mind if I just hand you these treats for Stella? Because I think Stella would really enjoy them. I said, I'll show you the bag. They're really healthy and they're just really great. And I think he said, sure, that sounds wonderful. Thank you for thinking about Stella. I'm going to take another sip of my mud water. It's called mud water, and I highly encourage you to try it. It's amazing. So I handed him the treats, and I could see that he was sitting and waiting in the car for the rest of everyone to get into the car to go to the river. And I said, why don't I go grab you a water out of my refrigerator? I reuse the Evolution cold pressed organic orange juice that are in the big 59 ounce. And I scrub them really good and I fill them up. Would you like one? I mean, you can even just use it for the dog if you want. He said, sure, that'd be great. I said, hey, really nice to meet you. I'm Karen, so I like to be neighborly. And he said, my name is Randall. My name is Randall Bailey. I could start crying. I could start crying right now. I said, Randall Bailey? And he said, yeah, my name's Randall Bailey. I said, I've never seen you here before. I know my neighbors pretty well, Sara and Skin. And I've never seen you here before. And he said, well, I live way out there and They picked me up so we could go to the river today. I said, Randall, are you related to someone that used to, or did you at one time ever live in this house? I mean, I know it sounds kind of weird, and he goes, yeah. I go, do you know a woman named Dorothy that died in this house and something happened to her lungs? He said, Dorothy was my mother. Every time you live in a house, wherever you live, many, many people have come before you in the house. It's a house of spirit. I want you to really, really understand something for just a moment. All of my life, I have honestly and legitimately and not monetized on this in any way, shape, or form, not went out and performed like any of the mediums. I don't call myself a psychic medium. I may refer to it from time to time because people only know it as psychic medium. But this is something that I have done on a very high level my entire life, is hearing and moving. Oh my goodness, Pablo just fell off the side of the camp chair. You okay, buddy? Okay, all right, you got a little sneezer out of that. Oh, you okay, buddy? You just went flopping right off of the chair. All right, so Pablo's okay. All right, we're gonna have Pablo lay back down. I wanted to cry. Tears came out of my eyes. I said, I just can't believe this is happening. In the last few months, and there was the for sale sign on my home, formerly his home. Where you live attracts because it has a certain vibration to it. The land, the people that have lived on that land, the memories that have gone on in that home, the ley lines underneath the home, the geomancy, okay, how the water runs underneath the soil in a great many places. And it changes. You can even look this up as regards to felines with cats, that they will lay or not lay on certain places within your home based on geopathic stress or not. Okay. When I was a little girl at 4 and 5, and my grandmother had lost her firstborn son the same year I was born in 1961, that's why I turned 59 yesterday, and I am regenerating, and I'm doing it quite successfully. I was taught that, of course, you can hear the ancestors, Karen, by my grandmother, Etna. I said, no, I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Karen. Now, everywhere I go, whether it was even a truck stop in New Mexico and a man who came from Tuolumne, it was coming in and moving in, not moving, but coming to look at this home before we even decided to buy it, and sensing Dorothy, Randy Bailey's mother. It was the ancestors and this movement. You're going to fall again if you keep scrunching around down there. That brought Eve, who is the mother, who gave me the small pinky ring with the diamond chips, which her son had given her. Let's see if I can adjust this a little bit. That we ended up sharing that time. I said, I'm a shaman and a medicine woman, and I have worked my entire life for this. And when my son died, I was going to just, done. I'm done. I'm shutting it all off. You can see Pablo's little legs down there because he's on my lap with his legs up. I wanted to be done. I hurt. I cry every day. I miss my child terribly. But I hear him. but he's shown up in my dreams in a part of my sleeping time, which most people would just universally and unilaterally call the dream world, which is the vision world, where you shut off the active conscious mind to some extent. I know someone could say, oh, and start arguing about that. Probably your feet are in the video. The chilling piece of this is that I would encounter Randall Bailey within less than 2 months of my moving from the house. I will be closing on the house at the end of the month. And that there are no accidents in terms of synchronous meetings. So when someone keeps showing up over and over again in my field of energy, I'm tuned enough to say, there's something that I really need, a connection. That person is the next step. I have something for them. They have something for me. Maybe not immediately, but it's there. I teach people how to regenerate, how to heal, how to glow. As a person who's in what we would typically call a white skin bag, I typically, 99% of the time, do not burn. I bronze. Even the first day going out in Northeast Minnesota after a long, tedious, gut-wrenching, world-changing winter, working my fingers to the bone every day from the time COVID shut down and my physical business where I had made $4,000 a month doing massage after my child had died in January. Everyone came back. They wanted to support me. And I worked, I put a lozenge in my mouth because the grief had me so full of phlegm. And people weren't thinking, oh, she might be sick with COVID. Oh my gosh, put a mask on. I told them, I'm in pain. My body's doing a pro-inflammatory response. If you don't mind, I'm not sick and it gets me out of the house and I need to figure out a way to pay for everything that I'm very, very behind on. And try to get some food in my house, get my dogs healed up because they have really, not my dogs, but the pack healed up because they've been neglected for the last 2 years plus with life or death, fight or flight. The house had been let go, meaning it was clean. I did the dishes every night. I swept, I mopped, I did that. I don't have anything to vacuum here because I don't have any carpet, having had dogs. But before I left, I got to meet Randall Bailey, the son of the woman who died, who I had encountered, and Zawa, my son, who died, had encountered so many times in this home. Now, one lady in town, who's the pastor's wife of the largest church in the city that I'm residing in right now, more than one of her family members have come through when she was on my massage table. And after my son died, I said to her when she gifted me an hour massage, she said, I want you to come in. I want to take good care of you. And several years before that, I had taken good care of her, having just met her and given her a message from an ancestor who's gone. She started bawling, crying. Bless up, Kim. Good to see you. Crying. There's no way you could have known that. And I have shared with people over and over, and the only way I know how, I have withstood people on Quora, people in person, calling me a BSer, a liar, a charlatan. I can't even tell you how many times I've withstood being called, she's off her rocker, she's crazy, don't associate with her if you're religious because she must work with the devil. I work with the devil? Not a chance. Not a chance. And that is so far away from the truth. It's almost laughable. I have provided consistent messages, insights, medical intuition hundreds of times that are proven. Deb Klajowski is one of them, who stopped by my house here about 2 weeks ago on her bicycle. I sighted up a spore while she was on my massage table 11 years ago in this house where I'm still doing massage right now. I brought it back in my house after COVID, licensed by the city of Cloquet with full permission to do so. I'm going to take another sip of my mud water. I don't make money from mud water. I just ordered it because I like to try everything so I can tell my clients, hey, I really like that, or nah, I don't like that. I think it's a little on the expensive side, but based on looking at the ingredients and everything that you get, I definitely like mud water. And another reason why I tried it, besides being curious and liking to try a lot of new things, is because I work with hundreds and hundreds of clients that when they do their coaching and consulting work with me and they've done their hair tissue testing and we're on a plan to get them better, a lot of them are like, I like to drink my coffee in the morning. I'm really used to my coffee and I don't want to give it up. And I'm like, now I have, besides yerba mate, other types of tea, mud water. There's a lot of clients that would not mind paying for masala chai, cacao, lion's mane, shaga, reishi mushroom, and there's no sweeteners, no fillers, no junk in there, as it's purported to be on their box. And if you sign up for a trial, you also get a little frother in there too, which I got. So I got that in the mail the other day and I thought, this is going to be a really nice treat. So here's the little synopsis summary. I move into a house where it was formerly occupied by 2 Native American women and a son of Dorothy by the name of Randall Bailey. I get mail for Randall Bailey for years upon years, and I send it as a return, right? I get signs from Dorothy, who's the mother of Randall Bailey. Lights flick off and on. They don't anymore. Various things happen in the house, and Dorothy lets me know, and I sit down and I do my love and my prayers for Dorothy. And I say, Dorothy, you're welcome to be here with us, but I really want to help you to be able to find peace and freedom and to go on to the next, leg of your journey as you will. My son passes, Eve's son passes, and now I meet Dorothy's son, Randall Bailey. I'm sorry, but all of this before I move out at the end of July. Feels like a really, really big gift. It feels like the ancestors, but now there's one more thing I want to share with you. Yesterday, I bathed both of the dogs. Now, if you're talking about bathing a dog that's 185 pounds, that's got a hernia on the left side that I was hoping to get a surgery for after I sell the house because it's going to be thousands of dollars. He's a big dog. And I'm hoping that that can help turn his life around. So I've gotten his hygromas down. The big elbows with lots of calluses. He was going into autoimmune where they were getting really inflamed because I was just handing chicken and just trying to get by in fight or flight with trying to keep my son alive. So the dogs were just getting chicken. I had to stop that. And I had to try a variety of other things that I wasn't always comfortable with, even though the dogs were like really holding their nose up and going, we're not eating that. I was like, well, here's how it goes, right? So I started making more and more creative bowls. I had a little bit of money. Oops, sorry, Bob. Had a little bit of money come in the door. I was working with some coaching clients. I bought them the supplements they needed. It was about $400 for several months of supplements all at once. So I could get a discount and buy enough to handle 250 pounds worth of dogs, including Mr. 5 Pound here. And I got most of the autoimmune down. So he was feeling a lot better, looking better, got them several baths, got them cleaned up because, when you've got autoimmune, you're going to stink, you don't feel good. I got the Dr. Bronner's out, got them baths. Since PetSmart closed down, I couldn't take them to the self-service pet wash. I had the leash out there on the lantern. The bottle of Dr. Bronner's with my back of my Subaru hatched back up. I went and bought a special hose at Walmart because my 25-footer wouldn't reach. Normally I would take him to PetSmart, pay the lady the $16, take him into the self-service pet wash and really scrub him up for about an hour and massage him. But due to COVID, that's closed. So we made a makeshift, since it's not winter, pet wash in our front yard, and I hosed all the Dr. Bronner's down, so the neighborhood probably smelled really good with tea tree and eucalyptus blend, which keeps the pests off him when we go hiking. So the last thing that I was going to tell you about is that I went to go hiking last night on my birthday. I thought, wow, here I am on my birthday. I don't get too wound up about birthdays, but lose your child and you will find that that is another trigger. Is that, oh my God, here's a day that I would have celebrated with my son. We would have been celebrating that the house is sold. We're on to a new life. I was going to write the book about opiates. I still am going to do that, even more so with even more verve. So I get ready to go on this hike and I drive a half an hour over to Duluth and I park the car and I take Luna and Pablo because Fire just cannot walk that far with the hernia. And I know it's unfair because it was his birthday. So we brought him home a special something, a nice big piece of fish that he got to enjoy and sang happy birthday to Fire when we got home. But right when I got on the trail, I used to do readings for a very dear sister of mine who lives in South America for many years. And she would come back and do some little readings for me too. And so she was going through a relationship with someone. And it was not a good fit for her. And I told her from the very beginning, this is not a good fit. This person is really basically going to be like a parasite for you. They're just really just taking a lot of your energy. Isn't that something that we can see as sisters, family, and friends, but we can't see it ourselves, right? It's very difficult with our own children, with our husbands, our partners, our sisters and brothers. I mean, it's very difficult. You know, some of you have had a father-in-law come stay at your home, or, you know, somebody else moves in, excuse me, or your partner's children from another, you know, relationship come to stay with you. And it's like, oh my goodness, you know, they just don't have the habits that you've had. So I could see that a mile away with this individual whose name was Pablo, just like Pablo the Chihuahua. And this is years ago. We've been friends, sisterly friends, for almost about 10 years now. So as I went to get on the trail, I took a few steps onto the trail and immediately I was overcome by feeling really dizzy. And I thought, something's going on because it's not me physically. And I know this from years and years and years of going into that 17, almost 18-year business in Minnesota, that I would start to symbiotically feel something going on with someone else. Symbiotic means my energy was tuned in. If I'm going to do a massage on Mary, some table work, some body work on Mary, and I've done body work on Mary many, many, many times, I'm very tuned in to Mary's energy, and I'm thinking about Mary. I'm thinking about Beth. I'm thinking about Sandy. I'm thinking about Cass. I'm thinking about who's ever going to be on my table, because a lot of times they've been a repetitive client, and I'm very tuned into the energy. So I would start to very symbiotically start to feel something. I want to make sure I explain it. Right as not even getting into a minute on the trail, I park the car, I embark with Luna and Pablo off leash, which is what I prefer to do. I don't want to be pulling them around by the neck on a beautiful trail out in nature if I don't have to. So sometimes I have to. There's been police out there. There's been lots and lots of people with dogs on leashes that are very wound up and they want your dog on a leash and they're going to call the cops on you. And the way the world is today, that's what you got to do. You got to do. But I'd prefer to do it off leash. And I've started to learn that when I go to the trail super early on the rise in the morning in the AM, there's a lot of people out there that have spent the night, that have been drinking, that are kind of just waking up and kind of getting their stuff together. And most of the time they're going to be harmless. But I've also encountered being way out there for, you know, half an hour up on the trail. And that person didn't seem so potentially harmless. And I just kind of tried to skirt around that person. So I get right onto the trail and I see a man lying on his back. And he's a little bit, you know, he's thick. He's wide. Caucasian man, probably close to my same age, 59 yesterday. I'm a pretty open book. And I look over and he's kind of got a little bit of a grin on his face. And I feel kind of a Jack Nicholson kind of a thing, like all those movies Jack Nicholson did, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And he's got this real movie persona about him that's just a really strong character. I said, "Excuse me, sir. I mean, do you need my help in any way? I mean, you're on the ground on your back." And to myself, right? And he said, "Yeah, you got a light?" And I mean, it was like the epitome of Jack Nicholson. And he said it with just that same, impersonation of Jack Nicholson. As I go, I kind of grinned back and was like, "No, I don't carry a lighter. I'm sorry." And he goes, "Well, I really need a light, you know?" And I was like, "Do you need to get up? I mean, do you need my help to get up?" Or, I'm thinking, "No, I could try, right?" And he goes, "No, I'm really good right here." He wasn't slurring his words. He wasn't in distress. He wasn't breathing weird. And I knew that I was going to make a quick 30 minutes up and 30 minutes up and hike back, and I would see him again. I was like, "You sure you don't need any help?" And he's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm good." He goes, "I'm just going to try to get a light for my cigarette and I'm just going to enjoy the view." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Right. And I have learned my movement is I'm not going to interfere. The person has already said, "I'm okay." They're not slurring. They're not cross-eyed. They're not, looking like they need me to call police or an ambulance. So I go on the hike. It starts to look like it's going to storm. Something said, "Turn around now." The something that I tell you that I'm always listening to, which is my internal GPS, my guidance and protection system. Okay. I listened to that. I'm beating myself up because when I came driving all the way home from Zawa's house, my heart was racing. And the last messages I have to my son on Facebook are, "My heart is racing. Are you okay?" And there would be a lot of times that he would not answer me back. So I thought, I'm not going to get in the car at 11 o'clock at night. I've been there twice already. The roommates are getting sick and tired. I will never do that again. Never. This is what you learn on the journey. This is why a 8, 9, or 10-year-old cannot possibly possess the experiential knowledge of someone who's 30, 40, 50, 70, 80, 90, 100. They can't. My 24-year-old could not have possessed the experiential knowledge when I said, "I do not trust your housemate. I get a real weird vibe. I don't like him. I don't. I want you to move home now. I don't like this." Okay. When you get those feelings, listen to them. So as I hiked up and I hiked back down, cutting it short by about 5 to 7 minutes, reaching the top as I normally do, and I came back, the man was laying on the ground, perfectly fine, smoking a cigarette, and a young woman that had a dress on, probably about 29 to 32, somewhere in there, was sitting there. And then she said, "Don't worry, we've actually called someone." I was like, "What do you mean you called someone?" "Yeah, we called the police." I go, "You called the police?" She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And they both looked at me like, "Aren't we great? We called the police because the guy needed help." And I'm like, uh, you know, the guy should probably have a say-so in it because he was fully cognizant. But as we enter the world of tracing and reporting, calling the police for anything and everything, being afraid of our neighbors because they're Native American, because maybe they don't have the same amount of money that you do, because maybe their children are out doing things. And, I go out there and I pick up the extra stuff. I'm neighborly and I offer the smoothie. When I saw the young man, I didn't talk about this on YouTube, but I did on my Facebook Live. When I saw the young man with his arm and his leg hanging out of the car, I said, "Excuse me, do you need help?" And I've been burned by asking if someone needs help, so I know to keep myself back from a distance and not try to be Miss Pollyanna save the world. I'm not Dudley Do-Right either. So I got a surprise call from a group of sisters, goddesses, in a group, in a group that we all connect with every 2 weeks. We just began not long ago, hoping to find sensibility, strength, connection. And I got a call from these women to say, blessed earth strong, blessed earth light. blessed incarnation, happy birthday, however you want to say it. It doesn't matter to me. It's my incarnation day. I am a flower. I am plant. I am animal. I am an amalgamation of earth alchemy that has been created. And hopefully I'm doing something more than eating and shitting and taking up a space. Hopefully I'm doing something that contributes. I believe that I am. I believe that I have always, and I believe that I always will continue to do so. And I believe that I'm as strong as I am at 59, losing my child 8 months ago with a glow, not because I'm basking at a day spa, but because I've been doing some damn hard work and I show up. I thought I was going to absolutely just want to cry and pull the covers. And I'm not going to say other expressions because I got an email from YouTube, which is why I ceased my YouTube for a while, asking if I was suicidal. No, I'm not suicidal. And I take that as a threat. No, I'm not. Not in the least. Do you think at a few times, oh my gosh, I want to be with my child? Yeah. Does that make me suicidal? No. That man, when I got on the call with the sister and the goddesses, and I mentioned to her, I saw Pablo, who is her former partner. July is my month. It's the month that the ancestors are the most active. It's the month that I really like to get to sleep and have a good long sleep, 8 or 9 hours a night, because the sunlight's beaming through all the windows in my home. The windows are open, the breezes, the summer thunderstorms and lightning, the charging of the air. Pablo showed up in this man. And why? Why have I taught for 36 years and why have I committed myself to not using alcohol? I don't go home and have a glass of wine. I don't sit down and have a beer. I don't go out and have a rum and Coke or whiskey and Coke or vodka. I don't do spirits. If you drive by Super One in Duluth, take a sip. It says beer, wine, and spirits. Spirit shop. Because I learned a very long time ago watching my paternal grandmother who got seduced and was anxious, was someone who was eating the wheat and the animals, was someone who had thyroid difficulties, who got played by the system, who got put on Xanax in 1981, who then would drink a beer. Bad combination. So many of our young people are on Xanax, trying to mitigate, mitigate their anxiety, trying to survive when it's criminal that we never introduced them to what I could have known earlier. I wish I would have known earlier my son would be alive today. But I dug and I dug and I dug and I dug like a wolf through ancient books, through herbal school, through working on body work for 17 years and feeling the cyst and the nodules, moving the energy. My throat was very, that turkey throat, it was extremely wrinkled. It was getting very wrinkled down my gut. All the years of doing the weightlifting and cardio work. Now I couldn't go to the gym. Now I was in the most, horrible states of grief. I was run down by 3 years of fight or flight and adrenals busted and exhausted. My thyroid was tanked all over again after all the work I did to resurrect it. All the detoxification work that I'd done carried me so that I lived through this experience. And everything that was taught to my child in the schools that I had explained to his father When we planned him, before we conceived him, I never wanted him to go to. I never wanted him vaccinated. I never wanted him to be in the schools. I never wanted him to absorb the mainstream thinking. But you cannot go to work, have your house repossessed, and somehow balance making money on the plantation alongside taking care of a child. And this is why I call it a mother hostile plantation. Mother is very intuitive. She's very intuitive because of her copper. Your copper levels are something that I can check on your hair tissue testing. Your hair tissue testing is something that you do on a repeating level, maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, depending on your budget, depending on what your results are. Maybe you don't need to repeat it. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. I'm repeating mine. I just got the 2 large dogs because I'm not quite sure how to get a hair sample from Pablo. I could do nail clippings, but I don't do them that often for Pablo when I do take him in for nail trimming. And I don't think there'd be quite enough for a sample. So I'm going to figure something out. But I should be getting the ones in for the dogs next week. And what I'm going to do is do another live stream video about that. So I was able to convey to my sister about Pablo coming in. And why did he come in? Because when this man was drinking spirits and he had a bottle next to him that was vodka or rum or something, a clear glass or plastic bottle that was laying beside him that was empty. My neighbors. So I could see that he had imbibed a good amount of alcohol, but he was very cognizant. I could see the Jack Nicholson impersonation. He needed a light for the cigarette. He seemed like he was doing perfectly fine, but he was a little off balance. He was laying on his back. Do we need to whisk people away like garbage if they're drunk, if they're dead, if they're this, if they're that, if they're sick, with the mask on, report them, get rid of them, get them off the plantation? We're losing a human connection. I don't care what you have to say about it. So I'm going to wrap this up with the pastor's wife and her family members coming in, including after my child died, her brother came in, my son came in, meaning into my head. A bright sun and his face comes in, and then her brother came in. And I gave her details such that she could not dispute nor refute that in fact that was her brother, and she texted me pictures the very next day. Our pastor's wife at the largest church here in Cloquet. So I wrote about some of these things in my first book called My Side of the Table. I used a pen name for that book called Sara Wolf because I was afraid of persecution by most of the Christian people. I am tired of being persecuted, tired of being told you can't do that. That's not right. Well, do you work with Satan or the devil? No, I don't work with Satan or the devil. I have been studying my whole life, and I am a shaman and a medicine woman. If we had more shamans, people that allow themselves, there's nothing special. You don't have to be a special pedigree. You don't have to go take a course and pay somebody thousands and thousands of dollars unless you want to. A shaman is someone that listens, learns, and observes. It's someone that's open-minded enough to tune in. The copper levels are high enough. The minerals are balanced. That's why they're taking you down. They're taking you down and fooling you so that you won't have these abilities to connect with your own millions and millions of yourself, your ancestors. Read up about samsara. So Pablo and I are going to say so long. We're going to be back on YouTube again. I told you that I received an email and I didn't like it. So I took a break on YouTube. Plus I had the house to work on for 3 months. I had a lot of grief going on. I would have cried on every single video. I probably will still cry on some of my videos. But I'm going to be back more often, and I'm going to be here to help you. I'm going to be here to support you because we're in this together, okay? Liquor stores around here are, oh boy, wow, yeah. So be sure to tune in, and I know everyone says this. I know you get really tired of hearing it, but be sure to like, subscribe, share them. I hope that even though sometimes they're long and winding, that you got a lot of nuggets out of it, because I would have given anything to have had a mentor come on board and help me with my mental, physical, and all of my health, and understand spirituality being connected to nature. So you are God. We are all God. We're all connected to God. Don't be threatened by anything I have to say. And if you feel that way, ask me. Okay? Make it a great night. I love you all.